Okay, so in this video I want to talk a little about geometry preparation. We have here a simple centrifugal clutch. It's compliant, and we have two pieces. So this is an assembly. Um, and if I were looking at uh, whatever I'm looking at, I think there's probably some elements of this that I don't need to represent in the model. So I can do a few things to try to simplify the models. One would be, and I can do them either in the CAD program or in SpaceClaim, and that leave that up to you. But in general, I can trim it. I can cut things away. With here you could create some. You can suppress those features later. So you just when you want to export it. For example, there may not be much stress in this region before engagement. So if I'm just looking at the speed at which it touches, then I probably don't need to represent much of this material. And likewise, I may not need the back, the center face of the housing either. But that's up to your judgment, exactly what you do. But once you've done any changes in here, then in SolidWorks you can save as, and you can simply select an alternative format. I've been using this Parasolid binary, which is imported nicely into SpaceClaim. So and you see it already exists in this case. So I will write over that, but that would be the process that you would go through in order to get this into SpaceClaim, in case you aren't very familiar with SolidWorks. Now in Workbench, I can create a static structural analysis, or whichever kind I want, and I'll need to create my geometry. So now I can right-click on that and import geometry, browse, and so let's open that. Right, it directly imported it. Now in this case, I haven't made changes. I want to edit it, then I might want to right-click again and select Edit Geometry in SpaceClaim. Okay, so if I'm not interested in the stress in the clutch housing, and I just want to see how it's interacting when it's contacting, I don't really need this back face. And so I could simply grab this, select the pull mode, and I could slide this back a little bit. And that's still just barely there. So let me pull that back. Okay, so I've created that surface there. Maybe I need just a little bit thicker. Now I also don't need much thick difference in the inner and outer diameter, so I could narrow this down. And here I'm just simplifying the geometry. Exact dimensions aren't very critical on that OD, and so I haven't been putting something in. But now it'll mean less mesh I have to use in order to do the simulation. Now I also might want to simplify this surface and cut away some of that. So at the very least, I don't need the two halves of this, and there may be additional material that you could cut away, but you could cut away a big chunk of this as well. Okay, so we take a look at this geometry. And if I'm interested in when this touches that, I need the mass here. I need any regions can affect the stiffness with which that bends, and the rest of it I can get rid of. So I could use the split features here to be able to split the body up into some pieces and get rid of ones I don't. But it may be helpful to first create some reference geometry. So let me create a axis there. We'll create a plane. Let's go ahead and build a plane. Let's see. let's take one that's parallel to that. Okay, so now, notice I selected multiple things. It's giving me a variety of options. I can select this one. The split that can be used to split that surface up there. We also, I think what I actually wanted was to get this axis here. And I'm going to select that. So again, split one there. Okay. Then we will select split body. So I have these planes here. I'm going to select this body because I want to split it. And now I'm going to divide the cutting line. So let's go ahead and split it in the middle. You notice I've got two pieces here, and it's asking me quick regions to be removed. So I could go ahead, I'll go ahead and toss away that option. Now I'm going to also, let me split this body again. And now, let me split with this cutter. So we've got 4 pieces, or 3 pieces there. And this one I don't need. The others I'll click here and get out of that. Now I have 3, and I could bond those together in the simulation, and but it's going to be cleaner if I just go ahead and combine those. So now I can recombine them, and I'll put those 2 together. So let me intersect them, click them to merge. There we go. So now we've merged that into one body, and you could trim these other places. I think you could see there's extra material that we don't need here, but I'll leave that for you to improve on what I've demonstrated here. But now I have a simpler shape. I will need to have. So at this point, we have gone and done a similar process to trim the housing so that we don't have extra there. Now we can go ahead and look at how to create splits in the faces to refine the mesh locally. Entire mesh where I'm going to have the contact. So let's also see if we can split this face alone. So does that allow me to select just a small region there? Let's look, see if we can use. Alright, so I split that face there, right where it intersected that, and I think, because if we imagine this was a pivot point about in the center here, this has the longest moment arm, and so that would come out and contact the point first. But we will see if that is correct when we run the analysis. And we can adjust it if needs be. Let me also split this other face here, so that allows us to similarly use so I split that face. So I can just refine it locally now in those regions. Okay, so let's go ahead and that concludes our geometry preparation. We can go ahead and move into the analysis setup.